Now let's talk about binomial times binomial. To multiply two binomials, we're going to use the technique called FOIL. F-O-I-L. F stands for the product of the first two terms. So product of the first two terms. A times C. So right here, that's product of the first two terms. O stands for outer, the product of outside two terms. So A times D. So A times right here, that's outer. I stands for inner, the product of inside two terms. So B and C. B times C, that's inner. L stands for last, the product of last two terms. So B times D, right? It's right here, that's last. So A times C is AC plus A times D is AD plus B times C, BC plus B times D, BD. Okay, that's a FOIL technique. Okay, concept check. Let's try two examples right here. We have A plus 2 times A plus 1, right? So that's going to be equal to first two terms, A times A. That's going to be A squared. O, outer, the product of outside two terms. That's going to be A times 1. That's A. I, inner, the product of inside two terms. 2 times A, that's 2A. Plus last, L, the product of last two terms. 2 times 1. That's 2, right? And here we have like terms. Plus A plus 2A. So that's going to be simplified as A squared plus, here we have 1A, 2A, that's going to be 3A. And we have constant 2. Right? Okay, we're going to try same example here. To multiply binomial by binomial, we can use the law of distribution if you want to. Okay, so this is going to be equal to A times all of this. A times A plus 1. Okay, A times A plus 1 plus 2 times all of this, A plus 1. Okay, so that's going to be A times A plus 1. I'm using the property of distribution, okay? Plus 2 times A plus 1. So that's going to be, now it's monomial times binomial, right? So A times A, that's A squared, plus A times 1, that's plus A. 2 times A, that's plus 2A. 2 times 1 plus 2. So we have like terms, A term right here. So that's going to be equal to A squared plus A plus 2A, that's 3A, and we have plus 2. Same result, right? Now let's try example number 2. The question is to multiply the polynomials. We have binomial times binomial, right? For binomial times binomial, we're gonna practice FOIL method. So first, the product of the first two terms, x times x, that's x squared. Outside two terms, x times 3, that's 3x. Inside two terms, that's plus 2x. Last 2 times 3, that's plus 6. right? So that's going to be equal to x squared. Here we have like terms, plus 3x plus 2x. That's plus 5x plus 6, right? Number 2, first product of first two terms. 2a times a, that's 2a squared. Outer, product of outside two terms. 2a times minus 4, that's minus 8a. Inner, product of inside two terms. So 3 times a, that's plus 3a. Last, product of last two terms. 3 times minus 4, that's minus 12. So that's going to be equal to, here we have two like terms, right? A term right here, a term right here. So that's going to be 2a squared minus 8 plus 3, that's minus 5a minus 12. Number 3, okay, first product of the first two terms. X times y, that's just xy. And outer x times 2, that's going to be 2x. Inner negative 1 times y, that's minus y. Last, negative 1 times positive 2, that's minus 2. And we can leave our answer just like this, right? Because there are no like terms. X, y term, x term, y term, constant. They're all different, right? Okay, number 4. First, a times 3a, that's going to be 3a squared. Outer, a times 2b, that's going to be 2ab. Inner, negative 4b times 3a, negative 4 times 3, that's minus 12. B times a, that's ab, right? B times a is equal to ab. Okay? And last, minus 4b times 2b, that's minus 4 times 2, 8. B times b, b squared. And we do have like terms. AB term right here, AB term right here. So plus 2 minus 12, that's minus 10, right? So we have 3a squared minus 10ab plus, minus 8b squared. Checkpoint 2. The question is to multiply the polynomials. Here we have a binomial, two terms, times binomial, two terms, right? So let's say we have binomial a plus b and binomial c plus d. And these two binomials are multiplied together. Then we're going to apply the technique called FOIL. F-O-I-L. Okay, F stands for multiplication of the first two terms. So A times C. Okay, so that's going to be AC. O stands for outer terms. Outer. So A and D plus AD. I stands for inner. Inside two terms. So B and C plus BC plus L stands for last. So last two terms. B and D. B times D. Okay? So let's try number 1. First. FOIL first, right? 4a times a, that's going to be 4a squared, right? Outer, 4a times negative 2, that's negative 8a. Inner I times a, I'm sorry, 1 times a. 1 times a is just a. Last, 1 times negative 2, right? So 1 times negative 2, that's negative 2. So we have like terms, negative 8a plus a. Negative a plus 1, that's negative 7, right? So this is going to be 4a squared minus the 7a minus 2. And we're done. For number 2, we have another binomial times binomial. So FOIL, first, 3x times x, that's 3x squared. Outer, 3x times 2, that's 6x. Inner, y, negative y times x, that's minus yx or xy in alphabetical order, right? So minus y times plus 2, that's minus 2y. When we look at these terms right here, there are no like terms. X squared, x, xy, y, right? No like terms. So we can just leave our expression like that. Number 3. So first, 2x times 4x, that's going to be 8. X times x squared. Outer, 2x times minus 3y, that's minus 6. X times y, xy. And inner, y times 4x, right? So that's going to be plus 4xy. Last, y times minus 3y, that's minus 3y squared. So let's look at each term right here. We have xy term, minus 6 plus 4, that's minus 2, right? So this is equal to 8x squared minus 2xy plus 3y squared. Number 4. Okay, first, a squared times 4a squared. That's going to be 4a squared times a squared. That's a to the power of 4, right? Or outer, so a squared times 1. That's just a squared. Inner, negative 2 times 4a squared. So that's negative 8a squared. Last, last, right? So negative 2 times positive 1, that's minus 2. So we have two like terms, a squared minus 8a squared. So that is equal to 4a to the power of 4. 1 minus 8, that's minus 7. A squared and constant minus 2.